Welcome everyone to our webinar about AI in the digital workplace, and then specifically about some challenges there are around sustainability, but also information management. And I'm very happy that I'm not alone, but Corné is joining me. Corné, maybe you can do a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm Corné. I'm co-founder of Xillio. Have been with Xillio 20 years. Have been working in the space with content and data a lot of experience there. Yeah, and my passion, probably on the next slide, is automating things, innovating, and AI strategies.
Thank you. So myself, my name is Sjoerd Alkema. I've been in information management, enterprise content management for around 20 years, different roles, 10 years now with Xillio. I'm now mostly involved with trying out new value propositions, new markets, the product marketing around that, building propositions. I like to always go for improvements with our customers and innovation, so also ties in very well with all the new developments there are around AI. And please feel free to link directly via LinkedIn. There's a QR code there you can use for that. I'm always happy to link. Then some housekeeping. So this webinar is being recorded. Questions you can ask through the chat anytime. We'll have some questions as well. And the recording and the presentation will be shared afterwards. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to set the stage a little bit about AI in the digital workplace, the challenges there are, but also the solutions there are. And we think we have a very interesting solution about the information management challenges there are with regards to AI in the digital workplace. And then Corné is also going to talk about how to approach this. What do you take as a first step? And he shows an actual demonstration of our solution that improves or makes AI in your workplace better and gives better results. But more about that via Corné. And then there's always room for some discussion. So maybe to go back to the exact topic, how do we now use AI efficiently and sustainably in a digital workplace? So this is turned around a little bit. This is what we're going to cover, and we're going to cover it from the data perspective. So that's what we've been working in for 20 years. We understand data. We are a migration company originally, so connecting to different sources, pulling out the data, transforming it, improving it, adding value to it, and then moving it into a destination system. So that's also the perspective that we have here, but it's a very important perspective if you talk about AI, because AI needs data. So it really is a revolution currently happening. It's as big as maybe the industrial revolution or the invention of cars or anything you want to compare it with. And we see that already it's taking place in the digital workplace, and the quick wins are already being done around summarizing meetings or making a quick summary of all the emails you have had over the weekend and doing some action points around that. So the assistant really for you in your digital workplace. However, a much bigger shift is coming, and that's the real knowledge enhancement, really having someone to talk to as your companion that understands everything about your enterprise, having access to the right data, but also agentic AI, where really you have an AI component taking care of certain tasks for you. And AI and agents talking to agents and really taking care of a piece of the work that you are now doing, so that you can focus on the real important stuff. And while we are talking, we also want to give a little bit of a definition, at least that we are having in this webinar, about co-pilots versus agents. So co-pilots are assistants that support users support users, and they respond to inputs, right? So you ask a question, and you can also have a chat with it and have a brainstorm with it, but it's something you need to actively input to. Then you have agents. They work autonomously, so they can automate a process and even make independent decisions and execute actions in applications without direct input from a human. And for both, data is crucial to work effectively and to make the right decisions and to do the right things, or to give the right answers back, if we talk about co-pilots. And a quick example that we have seen here in the Netherlands is there's a implementation, there's a co-pilot that's answering questions about cases. So in a case management system, and there's if you have a co-pilot, it has access to the data that's relevant, can be multiple systems, but it has a chat interface and you can ask questions. But if you have the same situation as an agent, access to the same data, so as important, however, that agent might already create an email based upon an incoming email that you don't have any interference with, and it creates a response based on all the knowledge it has on that email. So maybe someone is inquiring about the status of a certain case, and already an email is put together that you only need to review and send, or maybe even if it all goes very well and you trust it, then you can have it sent automatically. So that's good to know. And I think mostly in agents, we see that there's a very important, I mean, also for co-pilots, but for agents, it's very important to have the right data, because they can be very small and narrow use cases that work with a very specific data set, which can still be part of different systems. And that's where we think we have a great solution for, but we're going to talk about that later. So data is important, essential even, but data also comes with its challenges within your enterprise. And one of them that we've been tackling throughout the years, one of them is silos. They're in silos, right? They're in different applications, but because there are also different applications for different business lines or different purposes or different tasks within your organizations, but they can all have relevant data for your AI. So connecting and integrating those is essential. Then security and governance. Security, of course, essential, especially with AI, because it exposes it more easily. If you ask a question to a co-pilot and it has access to everything that you have access to, then it might expose very easily something that is not set correctly and you have access to while you shouldn't have. Then data quality. Data quality is very important. We see actually all the adoptions, all the implementations that are kind of failing now, or adoption not going well, is because of the bad results of the answer. So, and that most of the times has to do with data quality. We've also experienced it ourselves here, that if you just give Copilot access to everything, most of the times, because your information governance is not optimal, and just all the information is in there, you get bad results. But also, not everything is fit for purpose for a specific use case. So that also ties into the solution we're going to show you. If you have, for instance, all versions recorded of a certain decision that has been made, and they must be because of law and compliancy, then it could be that you still want only the last version to make part of your agent, because it needs to make decisions based on that final version of the decision in the system. So you can have your information governance top notch, but still there might be information in your system that is not relevant for a certain use case. So that's why we think purpose is very much an important aspect. Then sustainability. It's very important. We see that CO2 footprint is important for many organizations, and AI, of course, is in that sense expensive on consumption of energy. But we also have a interesting solution for that. There's not a lot I can share about that yet because the patent is pending, but at least it kind of optimizes the queries that you do from your AI, and it makes it more efficient. It looks like 2 times more efficient. So if you can save 2 times the consumption, then that will be great. So this is what we see, and it's also what tech executives in the field see. So this is a research that has been done that 79% says they think unified data is essential. So integrating different sources, combining different sources, enterprise data sources in your organization to work with AI. Forbes also says understanding enterprise AI readiness, it's all about data. Then 50% think this rise of AI also has significant impact on CO2 emissions, as I just covered. We have something interesting for that. And 59% identifies security challenges as the primary source of stress in their organization. That's also what we see in the organizations that we talk to, that overexposure, the risk of AI having access to something that it shouldn't have, or for that user who is talking to AI, is something that is being seen as a big issue. What's not on here is that there's also in Europe at least some issues around privacy and user data. So what is, for instance, if you talk about Microsoft, what are they doing with that, and how do they get to a certain answer? The transparency around that, it's an issue. Maybe in the US that is less relevant, but at least all these factors hinder AI adoption, and that's really what we get back. So that's also why Microsoft, I think, now is pushing for agents a lot, because then if you have the right data for a specific agent use case, I think it's easier to get good results. That's also what we see ourselves using Copilot. So you get better adoption, and then people get more comfortable with it. They understand AI better, and they can use the generic AI also better. So as Satya Nadella said, AI is not the problem. The data we feed it and the values we embed in it, that's where the responsibility lies. So on the one hand, he says how we configured it to build your answer, basically. So transparency around that, if he says this, would also be good, at least for Europe. But also the data we feed it and the data it's built on, the large language model, but also the data it uses from your enterprise is key. Good news. We have a solution that makes that you don't have to fix everything at the source, because that's what we've been doing for a long time already. I'm 20 years in information management, and it's always about getting the governance set up, making sure everyone uses the system correctly, making sure that all the retention policies are set up correctly, etc., etc. And with all the best intentions, it's never 100% optimal, of course. But you can start really right away already if you take a little bit of a different approach and you have this in-between solution, and we call it Xillio Cortex. And Corné is part of the team who thought this up, and he can tell you all about it.
Yes, thanks, Sjoerd. Thanks. Yeah, so before I dive into Xillio Cortex, what we want to address, kind of to summarize, is that you have data silos scattered throughout your organization. So your information resides in all kinds of different repositories. The data in those repositories have usually like a poor data quality or not really relevant. So let's see what we thought of. So meet Xillio Cortex. So Cortex turns scattered enterprise data into an AI-ready corporate brain. And that makes sure that your copilots or Microsoft Copilot and AI agents deliver accurate, secure results. So I will go step by step. First step is that we want to make sure that you get the right data. So imagine that probably already using Microsoft, if you're also thinking about Microsoft Copilot, but you all kinds of other critical data resides in other parts of your organization, other repositories, can be CRM systems, can be ECM systems, can be databases, can be all kinds of systems. So what we can do and what Cortex can do, we can connect to those systems. We can unify it. That means that we get the data from those different systems and store it in one database and make sure that we then get the relevant data and expose it to Microsoft Copilot. The next step, when we have the unified data, we can use Cortex to add meaning and structure to the data. So we know exactly how Microsoft Copilot works, and we know what it needs, and we also know what specific use cases need. So we can kind of prepare the data so the results get better when copilots, agents, or people use it. So with the right data, with the right context, AI delivers the accurate answers, better decisions, and the real business value. So by getting the right data, adding the relevant context, you get reliable results in your AI. So Sjoerd already mentioned a couple of the kind of the pain points: data silos, data quality, security, sustainability. So how Cortex solves this? Now the obvious one is the external sources. So we can add the external data sources to generate new insights. The data quality, we can kind of prepare, select, clean up the data, enrich the data, so you get better results. So for instance, if you have an open text environment which contains 10 million files, you don't want to kind of feed those 10 million files to Copilot, because also Copilot is pretty smart, but also doesn't know how to handle kind of these amounts of data and doesn't know how to pick the right data. So what we do is we prepare, we select, we make sure that the right data ends up in your Copilot. And security, which is super important, but we, in short, you make sure that if people are allowed to see it in the source, so in open text or in a CRM or in a database, in any repository, that they're also allowed to see it in Copilot. So we kind of respect all the security, access, and permissions, and we handle that in our Cortex solution. And the last one, also I should mention, sustainability, the patented technology that optimizes the queries. So what also from the NetApp complexity report, 68% of the enterprises report that data quality directly impacts their AI outcomes. It's good that it's mentioned in the report, but we already saw that at clients, and we also heard it from partners working with that, because as mentioned, if you feed it a lot of data, then also Copilot cannot really make sense of it and doesn't provide the experience that you want to get. So, but if people start implementing AI and feeding it the right data, then organizations experience up to 60% acceleration in time to market and 50% faster decision making. So, but it means it's not that you feed it data once, but it's consistently prepared and accessible. So you really make sure that you have access to the right data, also if it resides outside of Microsoft. And better data accessibility cuts search time by up to 40%. And you can imagine, people don't know where information resides. They don't know where to find it. They have to switch applications. So have to switch from one system to another, run all kinds of queries. And then if you don't know where it resides, if you don't know if it's even available, that can take up like a lot of time during the day. So, and if you have it all accessible via one prompt, that can save a lot of time. So what you see on the workplace, so it can be knowledge workers, but kind of all the people using AI in the workplace, they spend less time searching for information. As mentioned, if you have it all in one place, you have one interface where you can kind of connect to all that enterprise data. That saves a lot of time. If you have reliable data, then you just get better answers and decisions. So for instance, if you create a marketing case studies Copilot and you only feed it relevant data, up-to-date data, that's all relevant to the case studies, then you also get better answers. And what we see a lot is that people use it for 360 views. It mentions organization here, but 360 views on everything. It can be a client, can be a deal, it can be a machine for a field engineer. It can be a health worker that gets a 360 view of a patient. So if you kind of combine the data from those different systems, that really enables you to get a full 360 overview of a specific subject. I'm also going to show that a little bit more in a demo with an example. And also you can serve customers, citizens better and faster. So citizens with local government, of course, when they, as Sjoerd mentioned, with the case handling, if you can also with one prompt or via one interface kind of get historic case information, if you get the rules and the legal stuff around it, and you get it available on one prompt, then it's a lot easier. And it accelerates the implementation by simplifying data set creation for co-pilots and agents. That sounds a little bit vague, but I'm also going to show that and then it becomes more clear. And it also helps you to focus on work that truly makes an impact, especially if you look at knowledge workers and if you look at the first one, spend less time for searching. If you really have the right data and the right answers from Copilot at your fingertips, then you can really focus on using that data to add other value, to do other things. And it's not only that it makes more impact, but also people tend to like that a lot more. So to summarize, right data, relevant context gives reliable results. So approach, yeah, we've talked to a lot of clients. We tried it out a couple of times, but we also heard from partners who already run adoption, Copilot adoption projects, that there's different experience, right? So not everybody has been happy. So what we see, there were varying results with adoption in Copilots. Some initiatives succeeded, but a lot of them got stuck. I think it's also due to kind of the experience that people had with other tools like ChatGPT that worked pretty good out of the box. It's also used for different use cases, and they kind of expected the same experience when using Microsoft Copilot. And out of the box, that didn't go as expected. So a lot of people were, went back to ChatGPT, or pilots didn't succeed, or were closed off. So there's still a lot to gain there. And what you also see is that many organizations only use Copilot for summarizing meetings or creating action points, which is really handy. Everybody should do that and can do that, but it's a really limited focus, like kind of on the basic functionality. And you're missing out on a lot of value there. And that also gives like not sufficient impact on the daily workflow. So Copilot is not really widely implemented, but yeah, as said, as you can see on the right, people used to summarize the meeting, to check an email, to check the grammar of some text. Yeah, so that's still a bit of a shame. But what we see is that a lot of it is because of data challenges, that they don't have the right information. And that sometimes is already the case if you only use Microsoft or SharePoint, that they don't have the right information there. But also a lot of the critical information resides out of Microsoft and out of SharePoint. And that makes Copilot less effective. So what we see and what really works is if you start small. So not implement Copilot for your whole organization and kind of let it loose. We saw that also with Microsoft Teams a couple of years ago. People just turned it on, and then people just kind of randomly started creating teams. It was not managed. It created a complete mess, and they didn't know how to use it. Kind of see the same with Copilot. So it's turned on for a large group of users. They don't know what to expect. So the first experience is not that great. So what you can do, start with a small group of early adopters, find a project, department, group of people, and test Copilot for their workflow. So find maybe 1 or 2 or 3 use cases within that group, how it can really help. So look beyond the summaries, as I mentioned, and focus on real workflow improvements. I will also give a couple of examples later. And also ensure that you have the right data. But that makes it a lot easier if you start with a use case. If you say, I want to do a marketing, HR, finance, legal use case, find out what you actually want to solve, see where the information resides, where the data resides, and make sure that that data is available. And also, yeah, check the data before it's made available to Copilot. And then, like what you do, like with these kind of pilots, test, learn, scale, start small, measure the impact, and if one use case is successful, add another one. If one department is successful, go to the next department. And yeah, we see that this gives a lot of more success and satisfaction than the other method, and also provide internal support. So what we've also seen at these organizations and also with partners, if you start up like a small excellence center or a group of people that kind of like a dedicated help desk or expert group that kind of evaluates the use cases and gets the requests from the rest of the organization, and then sets up these co-pilots and use cases, and then follows these steps which you see at the top. That also gives a lot of success. So an example, so start small, grow smart. So instead of just saying, give me a summary of the last meeting, you can maybe for HR, so create an onboarding plan for a new role in a department, use HR documents, policy papers to summarize key processes, the team, systems, and HR regulations in a clear structure. So this is, I think, a better prompt, which really gives a value. But all the data that is needed for this prompt resides in multiple systems, can be a bit in SharePoint, the HR system, policy papers are maybe stored somewhere else, HR documents maybe in OpenText, for example. So with this prompt, it will get the data from all these resources and then create that actual onboarding plan. So for a use case, it helps to start with specific workflow, for instance, to support HR processes, make sure it really has impact, so it saves time and ensures usability, so it makes sense to do it. Make sure it gets the accurate data. Also with HR, you have to make sure that you feed it the right data, of course, not outdated policies from a couple of years ago. And yeah, make sure it's efficient. So automate the data collection and summarization. Yeah, so now I want to show you a bit of a demo on Cortex. So this is kind of the introduction and paint the picture a little bit. So in this demo, you're an account manager at Greentide Energy. Before I already mentioned that there's a lot of value in having these 360 view use cases. So you can be an account manager that has a 360 view on a client, health worker on a patient, field engineer on a piece of machinery. So but this account manager has critical information that is spread across various systems, HubSpot, OpenText, support system. So HubSpot is more like a CRM. It has deal information, contact information. OpenText content server has a lot of other data. I will show it in the next slide. And a support ticket system, which gets support tickets from their clients for their kind of energy products. So if you look at the data set, we have case studies, client profiles, proposals, technical plans, installation details, and more. So what I'm going to show is we've set up these three external resources, OpenText, HubSpot, support tickets. We're going to get the content metadata and permissions. So Cortex is going to connect to that system, get all the data, prepare it in the clean, categorize, classify, and context tab. And then together with data from a SharePoint site, kind of expose it to Copilot. If you look at the area, you kind of see two things. You see knowledge and actions. So if you look at knowledge, what it means is that from OpenText and SharePoint, we get a certain data set, and the data set is fed to Copilot. On a more technical level, what it does, it uses a graph connector in Microsoft, which sends the data to the semantic index, and Copilot uses that semantic index to kind of get data when generating prompts. The semantic index is nothing new. That was also used for Microsoft Search earlier. And the other thing you see is actions. So HubSpot and support tickets. HubSpot and the support tickets database are more structured data, more relational data. So what we do there is that kind of Copilot uses natural language. So you can say, give me all deals for this client. Then it translates into the technical equivalent that's needed in HubSpot to get the data or to get the support ticket data, and then gets it back and uses that in the answer. Maybe still a little bit technical, but I'm also going to show the demo. Yeah, so you can see this is the HubSpot data. I just want to show you what kind of data is in there. So we see the deals, we see the context, we see all the deal information about close dates, contacts. We set up a SharePoint environment with some client information, with project communication, client communication, some compliancy plans and stuff like that. And then I'm going to move to Copilot Studio. So I'm not sure if you have seen Copilot Studio before, but what we did, we prepared some stuff. We created a green-tied company Cortex Copilot. We gave it a description. So the idea is that it gives a 360 view of green-tied's client interactions and strategies, and a bit of instructions. So this is kind of a very more complex prompt that is used when talking to Cortex. Where I mentioned knowledge and action. So if you look at knowledge, we created a SharePoint graph connector and a OpenText graph connector, and that is connected to the Cortex environment where it gets OpenText data. And if you look at actions, we set up a couple of actions, and these talk to HubSpot and the to the support text information. So let's ask a question. So can you get me a 360 view of EcoWave? That's one of the clients. And we're now kind of in the backend, in the Copilot Studio environment. And the nice thing is that you can actually see what happens in the background. So it calls the actions that I showed earlier, deals per client, tickets per client. You can see it translates EcoWave to the actual client name. It gets back technical data that contains all the deals. It gets back all the tickets, and it looks in the knowledge sources, and it uses and it did find some information on EcoWave in OpenText. So if I scroll up, because it's pretty lengthy answer, you can see there's a 360 view on EcoWave. It contains deals with a link to the HubSpot deal, the amounts that you saw earlier, another HubSpot link, and the support tickets. And it listed all the support tickets with user, status, severity, description, 5 of them. And then it kind of composed additional information on EcoWave based on the OpenText data. You can see that in the bottom left corner, where you can see it uses 3 OpenText documents kind of to compile this bit. And of course, now you have all that information from HubSpot, from OpenText, and Copilot can then use it to do further action. So based on this, you can compose an email, for instance, to the support department, say, can you please resolve the tickets because I want to close a couple of these deals? Or you can say, oh, can you get me the case studies for the closed deals? Or I want to make a LinkedIn post based on that. But if you have access to this information, then there's like unlimited possibilities. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the kind of data orchestration. So I mentioned before, it's important, of course, to connect to the data, to extract the data, but also from the other end to define your use case and see what you actually want to solve. And if you know what you actually want to solve, you can also decide what data is most relevant and what is needed for that specific use case. So what I'm going to show here is our Cortex solution that helps kind of defining these data sets that you then can expose to Copilot. And expose is where you then see, for instance, this OpenText connector that can be any data set. And this tool is used to create these data sets. So for instance, if we want to create a marketing case study set, no, there's not a set yet. So let's create one. You can see there are a lot of other data sets which are already using SharePoint, Google Drive, Dropbox, and a lot more. This one doesn't have a data source yet, so let's add a data source. These are all the data sources that are kind of connected to Cortex at the moment. You see it's a lot of ECM, but this can be kind of any source in your organization. It can be CRM, ERP, databases, kind of any information. You can see where they are already used. You can see the sync status. So let's start by using OpenText. So now I have the data source OpenText. I have all the data in OpenText, and I can create start with a couple of simple filters where I say I want the data of the last month, maximum 10 megabytes. Want to exclude sensitive content, maybe also exclude versions, and then add a rule set to the data set based on these filters. Demo set. And what you can see here, now we have the marketing case studies data set. And yeah, if you're paying attention, you see there are already more rule sets because this is kind of a mock data set. But then if you've been working with this a bit longer, then you created a data source for OpenText, created a couple of rule sets for SharePoint, a couple of rule sets. And you can see the data composition. You can say when you want to publish it. Do you want to publish it to Copilot like every 3 hours, or do you want to only update it when permissions change? Yeah, and if we go back to this step, then you can kind of see all the connections. You can see the statuses. You can see the logs. What happened in the last couple of runs. Yeah. And I think, Sjoerd, that's it for now.
Yeah, okay, let's go back to the presentation. One moment. I think we only have a couple of closing slides, and then we wrap it up. Yeah, you just showed in the demo creating the data sets and link that to your agent. We think that's the way to start, and how you start it is really to start with the use case. What do you think is a suitable process or something that is relevant for supporting it with AI in terms of agents or Copilot. You can start immediately. You don't have to wait for everything to be in order if you use Cortex. So if you can share in the chat or mail what kind of use case you're considering, then and if you think it's interesting to do this with us, then you can subscribe to our early adopters program. What Corné just showed you, we can implement with you in your tenant, and we provide a free workshop to define that use case with you. We have experience with setting up Copilot agents and Copilots in Copilot Studio, and can think with you what would be the best fit. And then the implementation will definitely be a shared investment. We're really in the beginning of the whole agentic AI era, and we understand that it's all trying a little bit, and also, of course, the solution we have is a bit new. So we'd like to do that together and see how we can get value for you as an organization. So if you're interested, feel free to drop an email or let us know in a different way. As a final slide, here's a QR code you can scan if you want to provide us some feedback on this webinar. We're happy to hear what you thought of it, so we can improve for the next time. And with that, I'd like to thank you, Corné, for your part of the story in the demo.
Yeah.
And then I hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and see you soon in the next webinar. Bye-bye.